It was supposed to be a simple new policy. NATO allies will be spending 5% of GDP on defense, up from the existing 2% target. The NATO summit would then gather its 32 leaders at The Hague to work out the details of how exactly to spend that money and, more importantly, how to enforce the deal. Then Spain suddenly threatened to derail the entire summit before it even started, proclaiming that the country will spend 2.1% of GDP, no more and no less, well below the core spending target. NATO's official response to Spain's power play was nebulous, leaving me confused and looking for some answers. And answers I got. I sat down with Deputy Secretary General Radmila Shekerinska, North Macedonia's former defense minister, who now sits just below Secretary General Mark Rutte in the NATO hierarchy. And just to situate ourselves, I recorded this at 11 a.m. Hague time, and if that is not an actual time zone, I am making it one now. That was roughly 24 hours before NATO leaders would meet to try to reach a consensus. Note that this was before Trump shared an interesting opinion, and then Trump shared yet more information, this time more pertinent to today's conversation, but still just as unique. Anyway, I began by asking the Deputy Secretary General about the details of the current 5% proposal, given Spain's objection.
We start with 5%. The 5% target has been, since the beginning, divided in two parts. The first one is 3.5% of GDP that goes to core defense capabilities. And basically, there is a direct link between the 3.5% and the so-called capability targets that were already adopted by all allies. So practically, the whole process started with planning. Military planners developed our plans, and then based on these plans, the defense experts came up with all the capabilities that were allocated to different allies. The ministers of defense of all 32 allies at the beginning of June gathered at a ministerial, and they all agreed to their apportioned capability targets. So this 3.5% will finance the capability targets. And this is basically more or less the defense spending that matched the old 2%.
Future Will here, and I swear that this is going to be the only time that I interrupt today, but I think a little bit more context here is helpful. When the original 2% target was created, there wasn't any true rhyme or reason for 2%. It was just a nice round number that would mean that the allies would be collectively spending a lot more money. This time, in contrast, NATO planners looked at all of the equipment and materiel and manpower that the alliance would need over the upcoming years to be able to accomplish all of its goals. They then tabulated the cumulative cost of all of those goods and converted that number into a percent of GDP, which, if alliance partners reach the spending goals, would fund everything. Okay, back to the Deputy Secretary General.
But many allies have opened up the issue of defense-related expenses that are important for our defense and deterrence, but were not part of the 2% defense investment pledge definition. Issues such as military mobility, issues such as, some cyber elements, hybrid responses, societal resilience, all these things that affect our security, all these issues that affect our readiness, they will be placed under the 1.5%. And the two parts create the basis for the 5% defense investment plan.
So if you could clear up a little bit of confusion for me on this, it's not actually a dollar figure, because 5% of GDP is a dollar figure. It's a list of things that the countries are supposed to be producing that is guessed as being 5% of GDP. Is that right?
No, it is 5%.
Okay.
And it is dollar related or euro related, regardless of how you put it. It's basically financing the capability targets that we know. There is a very clear list on capabilities that need to be procured, and our defense planners have made the math. So basically, and this is how the burden sharing has been created, so that when we know all the capabilities that are needed across the alliance, we were able to deliver the specific list for every ally so that the burden is shared among them equally.
So when Spain says that it can accomplish this at a lower spending threshold, we're going to see what happens, and then from there will be a decision made?
Yeah, on this we have disagreed. We believe that, for the capability targets, all allies will need the 3.5%.
Okay. Well, given that there is a list of new construction, new capabilities, and so forth, broadly speaking, it's going to be the European Union countries as well as Canada that's going to be comprising the vast majority of that new spending. And broadly speaking, you could have two different pathways to produce new capabilities. You could continue focusing on the comparative advantages that each of the member states has and use those to complement U.S. strengths, which is essentially the game plan that NATO has had for the last 75 years. An alternative system would be to develop redundancies inside of Europe to match what the United States already does. Is the alliance going in one of those directions or another, or some combination thereof?
What our planners worked on was a political message or a political, in a way, instruction that we need an alliance that will be stronger than it is now, which meant increasing capability targets practically for everyone. But then we also talk about a fairer alliance, which means that the burden has to be divided equally, which means European allies and Canada need to do a bit more than what they were used to, because the balance has to be there. So these were the planning preconditions that they have used in their planning. So it will be definitely all allies increasing their capabilities. The level of ambition is higher for everyone, but European allies and Canada also making up for some of the disbalance in the past.
But is it largely going to be focusing still on the comparative advantages of each of the members?
Each ally has received a specific set of capabilities, usually in areas where they are stronger, better. We need a quantum leap, but we need a rational quantum leap. But of course, they will have to do more than they're used to. So there is a bit of an additional effort expected of everyone.
Let's pivot to the monitoring and enforcement of the 5% target, both in terms of the pure accounting procedures here and the timing of the checkpoints on what's going on. We've heard a couple of different things about the checkpoints specifically. Originally, it seemed to be a discussion about a yearly check-in and the Secretary General being concerned about the hockey stick problem where spending is flat and then at the target year it just suddenly jumps up and the bad things that come along with that. But then I've also heard about 2029 as being a specific checkpoint. What's going on with that?
Well, generally, the hockey stick problem is a combination of, experiences in the past, but also an issue that some allies have raised, that even if they commit to an increased defense spending today, there is a certain delay in the expenses because of, the constraints of the defense industry, which is why during the summit we are discussing spending more, but we are also discussing producing more. And this is why the focus was very much industry. This is why we have the industry forum as well, so that we can have industry production that matches the additional funds. And this is why some allies have said that it is very difficult to predict how the pace will be going. But we will have, as in the past, allies reporting on where they are in terms of procurement, but it's not just procurement, it's in terms of training, recruitment, retaining of personnel policy, exercises, all these things affect our deterrence and defense. And there will be a review period, and this is in 4 years, when we will review and practically reassess the threat and how we are doing with regards to the capability targets. So it gives us the possibility to really push forward a deterrence and defense that makes sense and that works and delivers results.
Well, we only have a couple of minutes left, so let me just pivot to perhaps the biggest and hardest question of all here. Monitoring is one thing, but then what happens if you're monitoring and you observe that there isn't compliance and countries are not meeting the target? What would you say to some skeptical constituents out there who might be seeing all of the spending going on around them and thinking to themselves, well, now is the perfect time to free ride?
Some have tried and it didn't work. It came with a vengeance. War has returned to the European continent, and we cannot be naive and we cannot be blind to this. I think the big, strong message to every ally is actually not just what we are saying, not just what we are agreeing upon, but the clear and present danger. The threat that all allies agree on is not going to disappear. It's not going away. The way Russia is reconstituting its war economy, the way they're investing in additional troops, but also in additional weapons, in ammunition, this sends a very clear signal to the alliance that we have to prepare and we have to be stronger so that we can deter our adversaries. And this is, I think, the main message to everyone. The threat is real. Our response has to be even more real. And it will be felt by all of us, but it will be a message that we send to all our adversaries. And if we are to protect our security and our peace and our freedom, this is the time to invest.
Well, Deputy Secretary General, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the question and the interest.
Hey, it's future me back here now. I record a bunch of these interviews over on Lines on Maps Extra, and though they do not normally involve world leaders, they are quite a bit of fun. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.